The aerospace and defense industry is relatively complex with a huge opportunity to automate and digitize organizations in this industry. But what exactly are the best ERP systems out there for your industry? That's what I want to talk about here today. My name is Eric Kimberling. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting. We're an independent consulting firm that helps clients throughout the world with their digital transformation journeys. And aerospace and defense companies have pretty unique needs. They're very complex organizations with a lot of complex products that they're producing. They're highly regulated, requires a lot of project management, a lot of raw materials and quality controls, shop floor automation, all kinds of stuff that's required to make an aerospace and defense company successful. And there are ERP systems out there that specialize in or focus on the needs of aerospace and defense companies, but not all of them are created equally. So what I want to do today is talk about our independent ranking of the top 10 systems for aerospace and defense, whether you're a manufacturer that manufactures products for aerospace and defense, or whether you're a contractor, whether you're a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 supplier, whatever role you might play within the aerospace and defense world, this top 10 list is for you. Coming in at number 10 on our list is SAP S/4HANA. And this may surprise a lot of you because SAP is actually the largest ERP vendor in the marketplace. But when it comes to aerospace and defense, there are other systems out there that are stronger in most cases than SAP. However, having said that, SAP S/4HANA does have a lot of strength as it relates to aerospace and defense, particularly if you're a larger organization. In fact, if you're a larger organization with thousands of employees and locations throughout the world, chances are you'd put SAP S/4HANA much higher on your list. But if we look at the average mid-sized organization, there are other systems out there that can accomplish some of the same things that SAP can, if not better, and certainly at a lower cost and level of complexity. All that being said, SAP S/4HANA is a big, complex, robust system that can do a lot of the things that aerospace and defense companies need. It handles project management, it handles some of the regulatory needs of aerospace and defense companies. It also addresses the engineering and the engineer-to-order aspect of the products. And certainly on the back-end financials and the reporting, that's an area that SAP excels as well. So if those are some of the things that are important to you as an organization, SAP S/4HANA is something that you might want to include on your short list. Coming in at number 9 on our list is IQMS. And IQMS is a product that focuses almost exclusively on manufacturing and distribution organizations. And it has a fairly large A&D customer segment. And some of the reasons why IQMS is listed in our top 10 is partly because of that focus that I mentioned, the focus on manufacturers. It's also a product that we found to be not only focused, but also scalable. So it can handle pretty complex and robust needs of organizations. It also has fairly good reporting capabilities. Now, as far as the downside of the product, first of all, the cost can be a bit higher than some of the other second tier and smaller ERP systems in our top 10 list. But if you're seeing the value and it's a good fit for your organization, maybe the net cost isn't that high. But compared to other systems, the cost on paper can be a bit higher. And although reporting is a strength of the product, or can be a strength, it can also be difficult to set up that reporting. So getting to the point where you get the good analytics out of the system can be more difficult than some of the other systems in the market. And then finally, some of the upgrades and changes to the software are slow. They don't happen as often as some of the other vendors in the marketplace. And then I'd add one final note here, which is that if you're a larger, more complex organization, IQMS is probably not one that you'd want to consider. And this would be a good example where if you are a large Fortune 500 or Fortune 1000 organization, you might actually bump SAP S/4HANA way up on your list, as well as some of the other systems in our top 10, and you might bump IQMS lower on the list. But regardless, all that being said, those are some of the strengths and weaknesses that land IQMS at number 9 on our list. Coming in at number 8 on our list is SYSPRO. And SYSPRO is another product that's focused on manufacturers. And in particular, A&D manufacturers are a good subset of their customer base. Some of the strengths of the product include the fact that it's easier to use than some of the other systems in our top 10 list as far as the user interface and just the setup of the software. The implementations are typically faster and at a lower cost than some of the other systems that we see in our top 10 list. And the company is known for its excellent customer support. And part of that could be because it's a smaller, not small, but smaller vendor that provides more focused support to its customers. Now on the downside, much like IQMS, SYSPRO is another one that you might be concerned about if you're a large, complex organization. It may not be the best fit for you. but if you're a smaller mid-sized organization, maybe it is. Now, a couple of the downside risks of the product also include the fact that customers have complained that searching for information can be a bit difficult in the system. The user interface itself is intuitive compared to other systems, but the search function in particular is a bit clunky compared to some of the other systems in our top 10 list. And then customers and clients have also complained about downtime due to data checks within the system. So that's another risk to think about, among others. But in general, those are some of the strengths and weaknesses that land SYSPRO at number 8 on our list. Coming in at number 7 is Oracle ERP Cloud. Oracle ERP Cloud is a tier 1 system that often competes with SAP S/4HANA and sometimes even Microsoft Dynamics. And we'll get to Microsoft Dynamics here later in our top 10 list. But Oracle ERP Cloud has a lot of the capabilities that A&D manufacturers look for. Things like engineering modules, configure price quote that allows sales reps to create the products and create the estimates for products, project management, all of the MRP and manufacturing types of capabilities that are required for A&D manufacturers. So those are some of the functional strengths of the product. In addition, it's also a more flexible product than, say, an SAP S/4HANA. And in fact, it's one of the more flexible products in our top 10 list, even though it's one of the larger, more complex systems out there. Now, some of the downside risks of Oracle ERP Cloud include the fact that the system itself is not as mature as some of the other systems that have been in the cloud for longer. So it's relatively new to the cloud space, although it's been several years now since it's made the migration to the cloud. But Oracle, along with some of the other systems in our top 10 list, are less mature in their transition to the cloud. So that's something to be aware of and really poke holes in your evaluation of the system. The other downside is that if you're a smaller mid-sized organization, Oracle ERP Cloud might be overkill. It might be too much complexity, too much cost, too much risk, and too much heartburn in terms of implementation. So those are a couple things to think about as you think about the pros and cons. But all that being said is enough to land Oracle ERP Cloud at number 7 on our list. Coming in at number 6 on our list is Acumatica. And Acumatica is a newer ERP vendor that's been around for about 10 years. And the reason Acumatica is in our top 10 list is because they focus on manufacturing, in particular A&D manufacturers. And it's an end-to-end solution that provides a lot of flexibility for organizations that have diverse needs or changing needs. And it's also a product that's highly customizable for organizations that have different needs. So those are some of the strengths. Now, some of the weaknesses are, first of all, if you're a larger organization, much like some of the other systems in the marketplace, it may not be the best fit. When you have large volumes of data, it tends to slow down the system, and we've seen that with some clients that have large volumes of data because they're larger organizations. That can slow down and bog down the system. It's also been known to have a steeper learning curve than some of the other systems in terms of the ease of use and just getting comfortable and familiar with the workability of the software. And the dashboards are a bit harder to set up. So if you're looking for good reports and dashboards and analytics, it's not as intuitive and it's not as robust as some of the other systems in our top 10 list. But all of those pros and cons being considered is enough to land Acumatica number 6 on our list. Coming in at number 5 on our list is Sage X3. Sage X3 is a vendor that focuses on the small and mid-market, not just manufacturing, but other industries as well. But they are pretty well known in the manufacturing space and the A&D space as well. Now, the reason that Sage is in our top 10 is because it's a focus solution, but also because it provides strong reporting capabilities. It's a flexible solution that can be deployed in multiple different ways. And it's also a solution that can handle multiple entities. So if you're a larger organization and you have multiple entities throughout the world or just even domestically, Sage X3 is a product that can handle some of those and other complexities. Now, some of the downside risks of Sage X3 include the fact that sometimes the add-ons require additional customization. It can be complex to do some of the add-ons to give you certain functionality that you might be looking for. And we've also found that some organizations and some teams within those organizations can be overwhelmed by the use of the system, especially if you're moving from a very simple QuickBooks or a Excel-based work environment. Jumping to X3 can be difficult for some organizations and team members. And then finally, it's not the most scalable system in our top 10 list. So if you're a larger organization, it may be something that isn't a good fit for you or isn't able to scale. But if you're a smaller mid-size organization, it's certainly one that's worth thinking about. So all that being said is enough to land Sage X3 at number 5 on our list. At number 4 on our list is Microsoft Dynamics 365, which is the third of the really big ERP vendors out there. In addition to SAP and Oracle, this one ranks higher than the other big ERP vendors out there. But Microsoft D365 is a good fit for aerospace and defense because it handles project management. It has the flexibility to handle different types of manufacturing. It can handle make-to-order types of manufacturers and some of the other things that are required to support an A&D organization. It's also a very flexible product. So Microsoft is known for its ability to be flexible and adaptable and the ability to change and integrate the software with other solutions. So if you have regulatory systems that you're trying to tie to or other legacy systems you want to preserve, Microsoft D365 provides an open architecture that makes it easier to integrate. Now, the downside of Microsoft D365 is, first of all, that it can be a large, complex, and costly implementation, especially if you're a smaller or mid-sized organization. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Because it has so much breadth of capability, it can add to the complexity of the implementation to where even if you're a larger organization, it may take you more time and effort and money than some of the other systems in our list. And then probably the biggest risk or the biggest downside of Microsoft D365 is its implementation ecosystem. The resellers and VARs and system integrators that focus on D365 are not really monitored carefully by Microsoft. So there's a lot of good ones out there, but there's also a lot of bad ones out there, especially if you want someone that really understands your industry. So it's just as important, if not more important, to find the best VAR and system integrator that fits your organization than choosing D365 itself. So all of that is enough to land Microsoft D365 at number 4 on our list. Coming in at number 3 on our list is Epicor. And Epicor is a product that's been around for a long time, but their most recent version of Kinetic is a refresh of the technology that's been around for a while, and it's a system that can be deployed either on-premise or in the cloud. And the reason why it's in our top 3 is partially because it can be deployed on-premise or in the cloud. Epicor tends to focus and do pretty well with manufacturing, especially make-to-order and engineer-to-order types of manufacturers, which most A&D manufacturers are. And it's also a system that is very flexible, it's nimble, it's not trying to be everything to everyone, so that makes the ease of implementation greater to where you can implement it at a lower cost and a lower risk than some of the other systems in our top 10 list. Now, the downside risk of Epicor include the fact that the reporting and dashboards can be difficult to set up. That's something that we've seen for this product compared to others. It's just not as easy or intuitive to set up those reports and dashboards. And also, it tends to be slower than some of the other systems in the marketplace. So it's one that tends to get bogged down with lots of transactions and high volumes. Now, for more information and a deeper dive into understanding the strengths and weaknesses of Epicor Kinetic, I encourage you to check out my video on the topic for more details on this topic. But having said all of that, that's enough to land Epicor at number 3 on our list. Coming in at number 2 on our list is IFS. And IFS is a European-based ERP vendor that focuses largely on manufacturing, and A&D is one of their big client bases. And part of the reason why IFS is such a good fit is because it's sort of a non-traditional manufacturing solution in that it handles a lot of things that are outside the realm of normal manufacturing. So when you think about project management, asset management, field services, engineering, and make-to-order types of manufacturing, those are all playing to the strengths of IFS, which is why it's so high on our top 10 ranking. The other good news with IFS is it's not trying to be everything to everyone, so it is fairly focused, but the vendor themselves, even if you haven't heard of them, is a very large vendor. They've been around for a while. They're about $1 billion in revenue, and they're growing very quickly. So as they look to expand their markets, it's going to increase their market share, and they'll become more well-known over time. Now, the downside of IFS is, first of all, that if you're a really large, complex, diverse organization, you may outgrow it. But having said that, IFS can scale and keep up with the needs of most organizations in the mid-market. The other downside of IFS is they don't have that ecosystem built out as far as implementation partners. At least it's not as robust as some of the other vendors in our top 10 list. So when you're looking at IFS, you want to evaluate not only the product, but your potential implementation partners as well. And then finally, one of the other downsides is that IFS is known to take some additional time to set up, and it can be a little bit more complex to configure when compared to other systems in the marketplace. For more information about IFS and a more detailed review, I encourage you to check out my video on my YouTube channel that goes into a deep dive of IFS and some of its strengths and weaknesses. But this is a summary of why IFS is number 2 on our list. Now, landing the top spot on our top 10 list is Infor CloudSuite. Now, first of all, it's important to note that Infor CloudSuite also includes M3 and Sightline, which are 2 legacy products. CloudSuite is sort of an umbrella that's tying together bits and pieces of their acquisitions over the years and the various products that Infor supports. But when we look collectively at that Infor CloudSuite suite of products, we find that it can handle a lot of the complex needs of A&D organizations. In particular, they tend to focus on manufacturing. They tend to do very well and fit very well for a lot of manufacturing organizations. They also tend to do well with engineer-to-order, make-to-order types of organizations. And the product suite itself is also very good at supply chain management, especially when you throw in Infor Nexus, which is another product that they provide that specializes in supply chain management and vendor management, all the stuff that goes along with it. So if you're a large, dispersed, complex A&D manufacturer, Infor CloudSuite can be a great fit in those ways. Now, the downside of Infor CloudSuite is, first of all, that the product itself might be overkill for some smaller organizations. The second thing is that the products are still a bit fragmented. They don't have a unified flagship product, a single flagship product. They're still tying together bits and pieces of other products that are out there that they've acquired over the years. But if you can patch together and find a way to navigate the patchwork of systems, it can be a very good fit for A&D organizations. And then the final thing I'll note as far as a downside is that we found that Infor can actually have a higher ongoing subscription cost than some of the other systems in the marketplace. But having said that, some of that price discrepancy can oftentimes be negotiated away, and that's something that we often help our clients with. And if you're looking for additional details on the pros and cons of Infor CloudSuite, I encourage you to check out the video on my YouTube channel that reviews the product in greater detail. But all that being said, that's enough to land Infor CloudSuite at number 1 on our list. So these are the top 10 systems you should be thinking about. And as I mentioned, your top 10 list is going to be different based on your needs and requirements. So larger organizations are going to want to shake up this list a bit. Smaller organizations might shake it up as well. And then depending on what your specific needs are, that might further change the list. So I encourage you to really think through what your business requirements are as part of your evaluation. And to help you in that evaluation, I've included some links and resources below, including our digital transformation report, which includes reviews and rankings for different industries and types of systems out there. I encourage you to download that as well as other resources I've included links to below. So I hope you found this information useful and hope you have a great day.